or TVM solver? How do we know the difference? If it's not simple interest, first of all, how do we know it's simple interest and not compound or TVM? Don't make it hard. It doesn't say compound. If you don't see the word compound in the problem anywhere, then it's simple interest. If you see compound, could it also involve the TVM solver? So you can't just necessarily jump to the TVM or stay in compound with the exercise. What do you look for to separate the difference between compound and TVM? TVM solver involves a periodic payment. You make a payment every month, every week, every day, every year, every 5 years, or something like that. As soon as you see a periodic payment, they're talking about PMT, and there's no place in the compound interest formula for PMT. So if they say compound, how do you know whether you should use this formula or whether you should use this formula?
One is continuously.
Which one's continuous? So if you again don't see the word continuous, then you've limited the number of choices you have in the problem. Ask the simple questions to help avoid you doing ugly work that's not going to be beneficial. So what don't I see in that problem? I don't see a compounded continuously. So I know that my formulas have been limited to using this. What concerns do you have in entering that formula into your calculator? You have to be careful with your exponent. Some of your calculators, when you use the exponent key, will actually build you an exponent, in which case the exponent stays together automatically. But when you use the caret key, if it doesn't build you an exponent, then you've got to use grouping symbols around that exponent to keep everything together. An investment of $6,000. P was left in the account that earned 3.5% interest. R, compounded quarterly. Meaning? 4 times a year. And the money stayed there for 18 years. Any issue with the time problem? What if that said 18 months? You'd have to put it over 12 because you got to convert it to years. What if it said 18 weeks? Over 52. 18 days? Then it's either 360 or 365, and they will tell you which one they want you to use. Okay? So read those little things, but make sure you double check and have all your units in the right phase of the problem. Avoid the simple mistakes. Because some of you want all those points. Some of you need all those points. So the amount that I have at the end starts with $6,000. I keep all of the interest, which is what the 1 represents. I get my interest rate of 3.75%, broken up into installments of 4. And I get that 4 times a year for 18 years. And on most of our calculators, the older 83s or the older 84s, where it doesn't build the exponent, you'll need that grouping symbol. Now it's an easy calculate problem. So 6,000. Don't have to do any intermediate steps. The author, remember, took you down the garden path if you did help me solve this, which encouraged you to do that part of the problem in the grouping symbol as a separate entity. And I suggested that you didn't because that would give you a decimal value that you might be tempted to round off, and that was not acceptable. And now raised to, and this is where the difference in the calculators comes into play. If you've got the newer 84, when you do the raised to, it'll automatically scroll and it'll build the exponent. So you're covered. If it doesn't scroll and it goes to the next line, or it doesn't build your exponent for you, you need to make sure you keep that grouping symbol together. You can still put the grouping symbols even if it builds you an exponent up there. But you definitely need them if it doesn't build you an exponent. So we got our 4 times our 18. The only time I wouldn't need that exponent is if I manually did 4 times 18 ahead of time and found out that it was 72. But you type an operation into an exponent, you're going to need a grouping symbol for the most part. So, $11,747.20. So question, what happens if this was not the question that was asked? Oops. What happens if the question that you were asked was, how much interest? Was earned? They may not ask you. Well, they did ask that question, didn't they? Okay, so stupid me. Don't need that. Which means in the last class I didn't address that question. So they're thinking that they were finished with that problem when they did this. Are you finished with the problem? So if you type that $11,747.20 in the answer blank, it's going to be wrong. And you're probably going to lose over half, well, at least half the problem value because you didn't finish the exercise. But it could ask you, what's the value of the account? And then question number 2, how much of this is interest? So how do we get the second part now? True or false? Didn't you rule out simple interest when you started working the problem? Then why would you go back to a simple interest formula again? But yet that's what a lot of you did for this problem. You went back to a simple interest formula to find out how much interest was there. You got interest every quarter for 18 years. You got little chunks of interest as you went along and started earning interest on top of those interests. So we need to go back to the relationship involving the future value, what you had in the future in the exercise, and the present value to be able to get the interest. Once you rule out simple interest, you're not using it anywhere in that problem again.